and welcome to episode number 442 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I am Carlos, and in this week's show, our friends over at the Blades Aerobatic Display Team have sadly performed their last show, and the airlines, on top of a pilot shortage, are now facing an airplane shortage. In the military news this week, the latest version of the F-16 Fighting Falcon takes flight, as well as some unexplained aircraft which are spotted. So joining me this week over in the PTUK Master Suite Studios, bringing down that background music fader, it's Matt Smith.
I'm going to leave it up just to annoy you now. That's it. You can have that playing in your ears for the rest of the show.
Oh my word!
Hello, you're right.
It's like a bad time on Park, isn't it?
Hey, now look, no.
When things go wrong,
no need for that.
No, because it's always you who gets the call when things do go wrong.
Anyway, enough of that. How are you?
I'm blooming marvellous. I've had a day of driving halfway across the UK. Yeah.
Well, 2 hours anyway.
4 hours.
4 hours, is it? Oh, okay, right.
Well,
right.
Four and a half if you want to be technically correct.
Okay, right. I don't. When have I ever done that? I'm never technically correct.
with me regular break, as usual.
Yes.
Us drivers have to.
Legal requirement.
Legal requirements.
To be honest with you, it's been so long since I've had to do anything professionally. I've probably forgotten all by now.
I know. So, how are things in the world of PTUK Master Suite Studios?
Yeah, lovely. I must admit, one of the highlights for me at the moment during this cold snap is coming into the studio where normally I'm sort of, sweating like you wouldn't believe. It's actually quite nice and toasty in here. It's just like I might come and live in here. It's lovely and warm.
You wait. You've got the two towers, about 13 laptops, and all the monitors and everything in there.
Just the 2 laptops today. It's all right.
Oh, okay. Slumming it this week. And joining us this week, he's back again as always. It is our aficionado of everything Seat 1A and BA. It's Neville Bounds.
Yes, and there'll be a lot of that going on Sunday because I'm off to Barcelona for our big audiovisual show that the company does with lots of other people. So I'm looking forward to that, although it'll be very tiring. So I won't be on the show next week, so I shan't be back in time, unfortunately. But this week has been spent getting ready for it all. And it's going to be a bit hectic by the looks of things. So looking forward to it, seeing all my industry chums, as I say, and just having generally a good time. So that'll be good. And
all in the name of work, of course.
It is all work, yes. And
there will be no alcohol drunk.
Well, I've actually been... I've lost some weight in January, specifically to give myself a bit of headroom for what the next week is going to bring.
What's forthcoming, yes.
But no, all good, thank you very much, and looking forward to a fun-packed show as always.
Oh, good, yes, well, we've got tons to get through tonight as well, and not forgetting, joining us, he's back this week, it's the man who's been to Las Vegas airport more times this week than Elvis did in his entire music career. It's Armando.
My command control center has been tracking me just fine. Thanks. Yeah, well, you stole my intro. That pretty much sums up my whole week. It's just crisscrossing the country about 4 different times. Pretty cool, though. By the way, for the record, driving 4 hours in the UK is like driving 10 hours anywhere else, fatigue-wise.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah, especially like it's all the time with the roads. When you got on the main roads, and you're like, I
don't know what you mean. I think our roads are absolutely glorious.
Yeah.
I was always lucky that when I was doing my professional driving, of course, I was driving a vehicle with air suspension, so it was all very cushy and smooth.
I wish.
I know.
I think I would rather do aerobatics in the space shuttle than drive a lorry in the UK.
Right. Okay.
Trust me, it's not fun. It's not fun.
Yeah.
But no, it's been good tracking you this week, Armando, and obviously.
You say tracking, you mean stalking.
Stalking,
right?
stalking.
Yeah.
Sorry, stalking you this week. One of the questions I was going to actually, or one of the things I was going to mention actually, Armando, you'd obviously been to Vegas a few times, and I was looking at that they actually did
he's there
sell.
Playing the slots, is he? Yes.
They actually did sell Elvis's Jetstar or Jetstream aircraft a few weeks ago. They actually sold it for just over $400,000.
What?
Yeah, that's right. I guess we'll jump right into the show. But yeah, a little bit of a follow-up. I think it's a YouTube personality, a guy that does restorations, bought it, and I think he's going to try to put it on a truck or something like that and then restore it back out in California.
Is that in the show notes then?
It's totally not.
Okay, oh, right,
No,
I'm sorry. The way you said it, I thought like, oh my goodness, he hasn't read the show notes again.
No, it's not in the show notes. Don't panic. And just one last thing before we start off proceedings, Armando, because of the amount of times you did actually fly to Vegas this week, do the controllers not just kind of sit there and go, "Oh, Christ, he's back again. Hey, Dan, he's back again."
They're not going to remember one aircraft, surely, with the amount of stuff that goes in and out.
I didn't know there was any Australian controllers in the Las Vegas town.
Quite being offensive again. Well done. Yeah.
They don't. They obviously don't say, "Oh, hi, Armando. Thanks for coming back again."
Nope, they certainly don't do that. And in fact, quite the opposite. Vegas, I created a video. Really, it was just for the host, just to see kind of how the day-to-day life. Pip, Stephen Ivy, any of those guys knows the day in the life of a corporate pilot. But I thought it was pretty cool to share, and I recorded some of the empty legs. Going into Las Vegas at its peak period is very difficult. It's super busy. Planes are stacked up 5 miles apart on the arrival, and then 3 miles apart on the approach. It is no joke. There is no time for dilly-dallying or conversing on the radios. You can hear that on the radio.
Yeah, I heard it. Whilst I was stalking you. Anyway, moving on. We're going to say hello to everyone who's joined us in the live YouTube chat room this evening. Kicking off this evening, Richard Adams was the first one in there this evening. Good evening to you. And we've got Mazouz. Hello to you, Mazouz, our local listener there. Hobby Time, hello. Lee Davies, he's probably there. He's got a pint in hand, no doubt. Bill is in there. Good evening to you as well, Bill. Dirk S, hello to you. Graham Haley, our resident ATC guy. Graham is in there as well. Good to see you in there. Mr. Warner, our military aviation photographer, is in there this week. Masha, hello to you. Just scroll down the list, make sure I don't miss anyone out. Our main man, Mike, is in there as well, wielding his blue spanner of doom, just in case we get an influx of any unwanted bots. Richard Adams, yes, he's there. I'm just scrolling down. Oh, Neil, hello to you. Neil Lamorne, hello to you. Pip's in there as well. Arnie, hello. Good evening to you, Arnie, as well. Captain Cruz is also just dipped in there as well. Captain Cruz, good evening to you as well. And good evening to everyone who's tuned in this evening. Don't forget, if you are listening to our beautiful voices via an audio podcast, don't forget to check out our YouTube page. Just look for us, Plain Talking UK. And while you're there, don't forget to click the subscribe and the bell icon, which is right next door, to be notified when Matt is hitting that live button in the studio.
Not normally late, it has to be said.
Not normally late, I know. But we have got loads of news to get through this week, including our Caption This competition as well, coming up later, just for fun. So if all the team are ready, it's so good to have everyone here. Everyone ready?
Ready to go?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Captain has turned on the seatbelt light. Please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
So the first story this week comes to us from airshows.org.uk, and it's pretty rubbish news, really, actually, for us here in the UK, because the Blades Aerobatic Display Team have announced that the 2022 airshow season was their last full year of display activities. A statement on their social media account read. They said that with heavy hearts, 2XL Aviation is announcing that the 2022 was the final full season for the Blades Aerobatic Display Team. The decision has not been taken lightly. The Blades have been important and iconic for the business since 2XL was founded. They debuted back in 2006 and have been one constant during the company's expansion from just 4 aircraft and 5 people to the 30 aircraft and almost 500 employees the group comprises of today. It said, while it will never feel right time to draw a line under the world-class team, the epitome of aerial excellence and the challenges of global economies the worsening cost of living crisis and the protracted hit to the disposable incomes this is causing have exasperated the challenges facing the Blades display team. This comes amid a continued degradation of the airshow circuit, with more and more events being lost, meaning fewer opportunities and to display our showcase our sponsors to the public. Together, these factors prompted 2XL's board to consider the future of the Blades. Regrettably, we concluded it's the unsustainable business model. In the best interests of our employees and owners, we need to take action to redeploy our resources elsewhere within our fast-growing company, they said. The Blades themselves are valued employees and ex-military fast jet pilots and support staff with desirable skill sets. We hope to retrain and redeploy elsewhere within the business as we seek to meet increasing demand for 2XL's innovative aerospace services. The consultations are ongoing. Andy Offer, 2XL's co-founder director, said the Blades will live on in spirit, the legacy of the airshow world, and in the collective memory of our highly valued sponsors through our supporters and the legions of people who both watched the team from the ground and those who've taken flight on our unforgettable experience days to enjoy close formation aerobatics and become part of the Blades Flight Club. It's been our greatest pleasure to entertain everyone and provide a once-in-a-lifetime experience as one of the original Blades pilots. I had the privilege, he said, to lead the team for several years. The concept emerged from the many requests he had during his time in the Red Arrows to make members of the flying public and to meet them. That was impossible due to the flying restrictions of flying civilians in military jets, but it made them realise there was potential to provide the experience of a lifetime by taking paying passengers aloft for close formation aerobatics. During 17 flying seasons, the Blade delivered millions of people, saw the team display that thousands have ridden on board the aircraft. They owe a great debt of gratitude to every one of them, but most importantly, we must pay tribute to the pilots who have flown with the team and to the ground staff who supported them over the years, especially to those who delivered the final season in 2022 with the Blades' traditional professionalism and flair. They will be missed. Now, we've been lucky as a team to be able to have seen the Blades display at various air shows over the years, whether it be at Farnborough or Riyadh or other air shows here. They also flew at Old Buckingham here as well a few years back as well. But we actually got to have Mike Ling on the show, didn't we, guys?
Yeah, that was a great interview, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mike's gave us a lot of his time, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it was really special.
It's a shame. I mean, you can see the reasons why. I mean, a lot of things do come down to money nowadays, and unfortunately, the air shows are few and far between.
Yeah.
And Pip had a good question in the chat room whether it's just the public displays or are they going to continue doing some of the corporate events. It's a good question. It's kind of insensitive probably to reach out to them now, but maybe in a couple months we can reach out to those guys and kind of talk about their experience and maybe have them on the show to pay tribute. But I know some of the teams that I know here in the States, it's so much, I don't know if this was their full-time employment, but it's just so much work, so much wear and tear on the aircraft. And as when we, talk to the team manager for the Red Arrows, there's just so much that goes into putting on a display that I can't imagine it would be sustainable to just do it a couple times a year, getting all the permissions for corporate events. Or I'm just curious what's going to happen to the aircraft, what's going to happen to the pilot. I mean, the pilots will be fine generally. It's sad, but I'm sure they'll gain other employment somewhere else.
I guess if pockets are deep and checkbooks are large, then I guess anything's possible in terms of corporate events. And of course, the Blades were the only team where you could actually be a passenger with them, wasn't it? I mean, that was part of the appeal to it as well, wasn't it? Being able to do stuff like that. But
they'll probably still be able to do something like that. I know the British Aerobatics Academy do rides. They do events where you can pay and have your team go out to their airfield, their home airfield, and go do some 30-minute aerobatic rides. But you guys know it's the regulatory part of this. It's just getting so hard to do anything. The insurance companies are really buckling down on everything in aviation. It's just hard. It's a lot of work. It beats you down.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
That's a shame. They will be
It is.
missed, unfortunately, from the air show circuit, especially here in the UK.
Very much so. Very much so. As I say, and we were very, as you alluded to earlier, of course, we were very lucky to have a very long and open chat with Mike. I think that will be one of the few interviews I think that will really sort of resonate with me.
We'll have to get John to look up what episode that was on. I forget which episode Mike was on.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on to the next story. Oh, 369 apparently. 369 if you want to look back at that interview. Moving on to the next story. It's not a Ryanair story, just for a change this week. So we thought we'd give them a rest this week just for a change. But Nev's got a story all about Boeing.
Yeah, it's on airlinerwatch.com, nasa.gov, aerosociety.com and nasa.gov press releases. It says that Boeing is exploring the possibility of introducing a cutting-edge plane it has been developing alongside NASA into its lineup in the next decade, Boeing's CEO Dave Calhoun confirmed. The US plane maker is scheduled to fly a prototype of the single-aisle jet, which could potentially replace the 737 MAX later this decade. The plane is designed with extra long, thin wings connected to the fuselage by diagonal struts, which could help reduce drag and fuel consumption. The concept has been in the works for almost 15 years. Engineers from both NASA and Boeing have been working on a new aircraft design with technological upgrades to its engine that could reduce fuel consumption and emissions by up to 30% when compared to the Boeing 737 MAX and Airbus A320neo. Such gains would meet the standard needed to launch a commercial airplane, Calhoun said on Wednesday during an earnings conference call. Last year, Boeing's CEO Calhoun appalled Wall Street with the announcement that the aviation giant wouldn't be investing in a new jetliner this decade in order to try and close the gap with Airbus in the narrow-body market. However, last week, Boeing received a $425 million grant from NASA to develop a new range of eco-friendly jetliners with the aim of bringing them to the commercial market in the 2030s. Boeing and its partners will be investing another $725 million into the project. The new jet, which has yet to be assigned a snappy name like Boeing's other models, is currently known as the Sustainable Flight Demonstrator, or the Transonic Truss-Braced Wing amongst the Boeing staff. Whilst the capabilities of the jet have yet to be determined, it's unclear if the concept could be applied to wide-body jets that are designed to fly long distances. It will definitely have a role to play someday in the narrow-body world, says Calhoun. Well, this is all possible under the funded Space Act agreement, which basically empowers NASA to contract work that fulfills NASA's mandate to private firms that it sees fit. And this contract was released for tender last year, and Boeing seems to be the favourite. Actually, NASA and Boeing already partner on similar projects, including the Eco Demonstrator project that we've mentioned previously on the show on episode 328, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? It says that the concept has been in the works for 15 years and they're going to have it flying by, well, early 2030s. So, interesting. But, yeah, to try and save even more fuel and make the whole thing more sustainable by the looks of things.
I'm not surprised that it's intended as an alternative to the 737 MAX, I have to be honest, because let's be honest, that has been a total disaster.
Well, with people,
it's
calling it
now.
different names, you know, the MAX 8200, the 737 8200, you know, stuff like this, just to try and, I don't know, distract from the name. But yeah. So.
Well, let's just remove the MAX from that, right? A lot of the criticism from the MAX was that it was just lipstick on a pig, right? A MAX is 737 still a 737, but it's nice to see them go for a clean sheet design like this. I think I remember a couple of years ago seeing this mock-up at the Boeing tent in Oshkosh. I think they've had it there for a couple of years. They've been working on it, but to receive the funding is a pretty nice step forward. And I like how the story says, it's yet to be assigned a quippy name. Well, there's only one number left, so that they haven't assigned. So maybe this is the future Boeing 797, and we have just introduced it to the world.
Wow, you heard it here first.
Copyright that.
Quick.
Jonathan Warner makes a good point in the chat room. He says it looks like an ATR.
Yeah, you can see a lot of cues from a lot of other aircraft, but Bill in the chat rooms also, talking about engines. I'm sure that Boeing is going to, after the 737 issues, will probably go full clean sheet on this one.
And make the landing gear a bit longer too, perhaps. So they can put bigger in.
So forgive my naivety here, because I'm the first to admit I know naff all about these aeroplanes. But
rubbish.
The supporting strut that they're putting under the wing, I feel like that's a step backwards.
No, not necessarily. I think with nerd alert. I think with computational fluid dynamics nowadays can render some pretty accurate aerodynamic models, and they wouldn't put it there. If you looked at the Faraday BIHA concept, that had a similar design to it. So a lot of these sort of converging wings and different angles of wings, I'm sure they're well, we don't have a story in the military about this, but there was actually a story this week about an aircraft being developed for the U.S. Air Force that does not have any movable surfaces. So it's got no ailerons, no elevators, no stabilators or rudderons or whatever you want to call it. It's literally all vectored air. So I think the traditional way that we see aircraft is going to change significantly in the next 10 years with the advancement of aerodynamic science, right? And we'll probably see some designs like this where there may not even be movable control surfaces out on these commercial aircraft in addition to military aircraft. Wow, I think I just lost you, Matt. Sorry.
Well, soon we won't need none of this anyway, because we'll have transporters like they do on Star Trek. So,
right.
Oh, I can't wait to walk down into the kitchen and I can just say, "Replicator, give me lasagna."
Will that be your go-to food? Will it lasagna? Always lasagna.
If my food replicator can make a good lasagna, then I'm in.
Okay.
Then I'll take a stab at the transporter.
Okay, right. Okay.
We just went full nerd on this.
Hang on,
show.
yeah, I'd say, hang on, go. Sorry, pop that up again, please, John. Pip was actually saying rather interestingly, or at least I thought it was interesting. It's not necessarily all about me, but he was saying, I'm sure the strut is lift producing and super low drag. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Even, most people don't even think about it, but even the fuselage creates a little bit of lift. So Pip is right that everything will be about high lift, low drag.
And Dirk is saying, guess you win more making the long main wing possible with that strut than losing due to extra weight or drag of it.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, lovely, good, excellent. Nerd alert.
We'll be well and truly claiming our pension by the time this aircraft comes.
Pension? There won't be any pension left by the time we get there.
True.
Bill is saying the design of the wings doesn't look like it'll hold much fuel, though. Good point. Would there be fuel? Yeah,
no, they'll bring air-to-air refueling in for passenger aircraft.
Right, okay, yeah. John is suggesting that perhaps it might be so fuel efficient they won't necessarily need the extra fuel. I guess you could put tanks in the hold somewhere if necessary, could you? I guess. I don't know. Yeah, apparently they do that already. Okay, all right. There was me thinking I was being really clever. We'll move on to the next story, shall we?
Yes, Armando. Armando, you've got the next one, all about the preliminary report on that Embraer engine.
Oh.
No, actually, this is Matt.
Yeah.
Oh, is he? I skipped two. Oh, I've skipped. Yeah, sorry. Simple flying. This one, isn't it, Matt?
Yes. I'm no longer sure. I'll read what's here. It says
actually, this story is ideal for you because I think you should jump into the right seat of a 757.
No. Moving on. Captains with as little as 4.5 months seniority are getting to fly Delta's Boeing 757-767. Several sources on this, one being Instagram, 1 mile at a time, and also Simple Flying, who never get any media fails wrong ever. It's a nasty cough you've got there, Carlos. As the US pilot shortage continues, Delta is allowing pilots with as low as 4.5 months of seniority to bid for the captain position on board its Boeing 757 and Boeing 767 fleet. Delta Airlines is opening up the captaincy for its wide-body Boeing fleet to less senior pilots as it contends with the ongoing US pilot shortage. As first reported by Aerocrew News, pilots with as little as 4.5 months of seniority can now bid to become captains on a Delta, Boeing 757 or 767, far lower than the industry standard. As noted by 1 Mile at a Time, to become captain of a wide body at Delta would normally require around 20 years of seniority, involving several years as a first officer and then captain of a smaller aircraft. Larger planes such as the 75 and the 76 warrant a higher rate of pay, as will the captaincy role. For example, a junior FO on any plane at Delta could earn $92 an hour, while on the 75 or 76 as a captain, they would bring home far more than $269 per hour. Airlines in the US struggle to find enough pilots as demand for air travel returned over 2022, necessitating moves like this one at Delta. The lowering of required seniority doesn't mean that Delta is desperate to promote whoever qualifies, but it will translate to considerably younger pilots at the helm. Some listeners may be alarmed about the 4.5 month time frame, but don't fret. This doesn't refer to how long the pilot has been flying overall, just the amount of time that they've spent at Delta. In other words, a new hire who accumulates 4.5 months of seniority at Delta and bids for a 767 captaincy will still possess years of experience gained with other airlines, along with all the necessary qualifications and flight hours that have been logged. Federal Aviation Administrator, the FAA, data recently revealed that new pilot supply is stronger than demand following the sizable investments from US carriers in pilot training schemes and improved pilot pay. There has probably never been a better time to become a pilot, as competitive positions like the captaincy of a wide body at a major US carrier are increasingly within the reach earlier in your career. And that was the one bit that was worrying me, is like, say, essentially if you've only been with the airline for 4.5 months. But of course there are a lot of people who have perhaps been with let's say BA for many years, and they decide that they're going to go and fly for some bizarre reason, Nev, who can only imagine why, wanting to go and fly with Delta instead. And I suppose if you've got sort of 10 years worth of experience under your belt flying for BA, why wouldn't you be able to then jump into a captaincy role quite successfully at Delta?
I love these figures.
Because
269
don't speak the same language.
Every time that Nev reminds us of that, I just think back to all those days that I flew in the UK just with a Texas accent, and I'm not even from Texas. I'm from like Puerto Rico and Virginia, right? This isn't a good story. I know at least 5 of my military compadres that have gone to Delta, and one of them had thousands of hours on a 757. As you guys know, the Air Force probably has 4 or 5 or 6 757s, probably 100 pilots or so that are very, very well qualified. They could easily transition into an airline like Delta and then over into the left seat after just a couple months. They've already got thousands of hours of PIC time. And also remember, the Air Force, the US Air Force, if nothing else, already has 56 KC-46s, which is a 767. But then you have the guys that are coming over from cargo. The 75, 76 has been around in cargo for a long time. It's a great opportunity for airlines to capitalize on that experience right now. If you've already got a couple thousand hours in the airplane, then they'll certainly be a candidate to move into the left seat fairly quickly.
And forgive my naivety, but PIC, what does that mean?
Pilot in command.
It is a pilot in command, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
I know you moan about the 7.5, Matt, but I tell you what, we'll sling you in the right seat as an FO in the 7.5, and you can, according to the conversion, that's £74 an hour.
Well, if you're
there you go. That's for a first officer.
That's not a bad rate.
I could say if you're a captain, it's $269 an hour.
Well, based on this article, you could just go into the left seat, Matt.
Yeah, true.
Which is £217 an hour.
I mean, there is the small matter of not only absolutely zero experience flying a 757, but also zero experience having
you don't need experience,
right.
Matt.
I mean, I held the controls of a plane that I was in with Armando for about 4 minutes. Does that count?
And you flew the sim at London.
I didn't actually.
Did you not fly sim at London?
Nope, I've never flown. I didn't fly it.
I remember he didn't get into the simulator. However, Matt, you did fly. I have video evidence. You did fly for at least 30 minutes.
Was it 30 minutes?
It was much longer. Much longer than that.
I was too busy enjoying myself. It felt like 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, we should all leave our jobs and go and be pilots for Delta.
For Delta, right, lovely. Again, the small issue there's only one of us in the team who's got anywhere near enough hours to get anywhere near it. Have you been type rated on anything anywhere near that?
No, not at all.
Only sitting in here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Carlos is probably more qualified to fly the 7.5 sitting in his home simulator.
That is a terrifying thought.
Oh dear, I haven't crashed yet.
An utterly terrifying thought.
Not deliberately, anyway. Also, we were just listening to John. John's talking in our ear at the moment. That's why you're wondering why we're all gone silent.
I was staring at my Alexa because it suddenly fired into life for some random reason.
Oh, don't say that word.
Say again, Carlos. Can you repeat what John said?
Pass.
Was it the legalities in the US?
It's about upgrades in the US.
Well, I'm not entirely sure. I know how it does work here in the US. What I'm not sure is how it works other places. I don't know. For example, Captain Al is a great example, right? He's very experienced. I don't know if he could go from European airline to European airline, from left seat to left seat. We have Pip in the chat room. Pip, I'll give you a couple minutes to answer that, or 30 seconds to answer that. I do believe you can go left seat from left seat. There's nothing legally that would prevent you from doing that, except for maybe some high minimums. So there's some additional restrictions as far as doing approaches, or maybe doing more advanced approaches, that if you just jumped into the left seat. However, I think legally, I don't think there's any restrictions preventing somebody from getting hired right into the left seat. In the Part 135 world, the charter world, you can absolutely get hired on as a street captain. So the regionals actually do this. For example, Piedmont and PSA into the CRJ. So you get somebody like Stephen Ivey, right? Lots of CRJ experience. Well, he could apply at Piedmont and PSA and go into what's called a direct entry captain. So he would go right into the left seat. That kind of model hasn't really made it to the majors and the low cost carriers, the big airplanes, but there you can absolutely do that. Hire a direct entry captain. And then, okay, there you go. Pip in the chat room says, depends on the airline. Some airlines do hire direct entry captains. Major airlines like BA won't. It's legally fine. They don't at SafeJets, where he works. They have a strict seniority list. So there you go. I think that's kind of the answer. Is it depends on the company, but legally there's nothing preventing it.
A very interesting topic.
Sorry, most training. So like, for example, I was early last year, I went to the Delta Airlines training center in Atlanta, and I did a course there. Everybody gets a PIC type rating at the major. So even if you get hired on as a first officer into an aircraft, let's say an Airbus A320 series, you will get a PIC type rating. The company makes you an SIC, but you're getting a PIC type rating. Same thing at a regional. They don't issue SIC type ratings anymore. So from day one, you are legally qualified. And we've done some stories with emergencies and things like that, where you are legally qualified to fly that aircraft from the left or the right seat. It's just a company matter.
We should have a whole show dedicated to this, really, shouldn't we?
Mike is saying, I thought there were some major licensing issues. The EU license doesn't any longer carry over to the UK license, and neither carry over to the US license.
Oh, that is a great Brexit question that I am not up to speed on. I'm not sure. I think Brexit did change things as far as the CAA and EASA. I know I had some issues with a reciprocal certification. They knocked all of my licenses down one in the UK, but that was EASA at the time. That was pre-Brexit. So I'm not entirely sure about reciprocal certifications. I know here in the US, we've done some stories on the show where if you have an Australian license and a Canadian license, I believe you get, an equivalent. So if you got an ATP and a type rating, we'll give you that. But it's very few countries, I think, that the U.S. issues an ATP certificate and a type rating based on another country's regulatory agency. Or it's very few. Oof. Sorry about that.
There we go.
Went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, Dirk S is asking, do hours as hosting command at PT UK count?
HIC. That's another acronym we could have on the show now. Hosting command.
Right. Okay.
So moving over to our hosting command, Armando.
I feel like I've got a migraine coming on.
Hopefully that's directed at Carlos and not. So this was a story that we talked about. It's a very unfortunate story about the ground worker that was killed by the getting sucked into the engine of a running jet. So this happened on December 31st, New Year's Eve, at Alabama's Montgomery Regional Airport. This kind of made its way around the aviation circles. How could something like this happen? And I'm just going to summarize the story. What ended up happening is, after the aircraft's arrival, the engine remained running because it had an inoperative APU. Initially, a lot of us were asking, did that information get passed through dispatch to the ground handling team? It turns out it did. And in addition to that, the ground handling team had two different huddles. They basically said, hey, this aircraft is coming in. And the ground handling team was from Piedmont Airlines, while the aircraft was an Embraer 175 operated by Envoy Air. And they did have a safety huddle saying no one is going to put out the cones, no one's going to approach the aircraft while the beacon is on, while the engines are running. They had a safety huddle that said the engines will stay running because the APU is inoperative until they get ground power to it. And in the NTSB preliminary, it also came out that they had a second huddle right as the aircraft was touching down, as it was taxiing in. Again, the ground team did do a safety huddle. The crew did pass on all the information. Dispatch did pass the information that there were going to be some special care needed to ground handle this aircraft. Even despite all of that, I think what ended up happening was the ground handler that ended up passing away was still, I don't know, maybe lost a little bit of situational awareness and had already placed some of the safety cones, despite the briefing that said they weren't going to do that. There were, unfortunately, this was all caught on CCTV video, and the other ground handlers were trying to wave at that ground handler, trying to get her to not do any of these things as briefed. But unfortunately, when she stepped in front of that engine, we know what happened there at the rest. But so it seems like the NTSB preliminary points to that every possible safety precaution was taken, as we were all sort of just contemplating when this event happened, both us here and over at APG, I know they talked about it, and they talked, Captain Nick talked about some of his procedures, and Captain Jeff has never had to deal with this because he's always flown and aircraft with high mounted engines, but just very, very unfortunate incident, lack of situational awareness, and truly an accident.
Hopefully we won't see it happen again.
Yeah, there's some terrifying. I remember in the military, they showed us some pretty terrifying videos of this happening on aircraft carriers. Mostly, aircraft carriers have very tight spaces with engines running, things like that. There's a famous video of you can YouTube it, of a ground handler going through the engine of an A6 Intruder and gets spit out the back. He survived because he had his helmet apparently broke off all the blades, and he literally got spat out the back of the engine. But it shows the immense amount of power that these engines have.
Yeah, I think I'll stick to gliders. Less hassle.
It's cheaper,
yeah. Next story, moving on. This one's from the airguide.info, and airlines are now facing an airplane shortage.
That's what the story says.
As airlines grapple with staff shortages and maintenance delays, they're now facing airplane shortages, according to Reuters. Delegates to the annual Airline Economics Conference in Dublin were told that manufacturers are missing their delivery targets, and that could hamper an unexpected surge, and prompted largely by China's abrupt cancellation of many COVID restrictions. They said, "We are seeing a very strong rebound in travel," and AirCap Chief Executive Angus Kelly said he thinks we will see a return to full 2019 in the middle of the year. As of 31st of December 2022, so just before the end of last year, the backlog of aircraft for Airbus was 7,239 aircraft, including 567 of those which are wide-bodied aircraft. The Boeing backlog, not quite so hefty, but still a lot of aircraft at 4,578 aircraft, 847 of them being wide-body aircraft, slightly more there than Airbus for those. The pandemic has disrupted supply chains for manufacturers. It's expected that shortages will be acute in the bread and butter narrow body fleet. As many as 2,400 aircraft are behind schedule, and the backlog will take years to clear. Air Lease Executive Chairman Stephen Udvar-Hazy told the gathering that the manufacturers had grossly misjudged their capacity, and the shortage of new jets is compounded by maintenance delays. All MROs, or maintenance and repair organisations, are booked solid, in part with post-storage inspections that take a lot of time. As with all sorts of shortages, the ultimate result is high costs to the end user, and airfares are expected to stay relatively high for the foreseeable future. Another result of the supply distribution or disruption is the return of 4-engine aircraft that were retired in the pandemic. Some of the planes that didn't get built are modern twins that airlines ordered with small first-class cabins. There isn't enough capacity for first-class demand without the A380s, 747s, and the A340s that went into the desert during the pandemic. So at least 8 airlines are dusting off those planes to fill in their new 777-9s and A350s that are ready according to Travel Tomorrow. It does beg a question, I think, doesn't it, Armando? With all the aircraft that are currently sitting over in the deserts over your neck of the woods as such, a lot of those aircraft that are sitting in the desert are relatively new aircraft that are still capable of, flying with inspections, obviously.
Yeah, I think so. I think if it really gets to that point, but those are inefficient aircraft, right? I mean, there's hundreds of MD-80s. That's an antiquated beast, right?
No.
No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, Captain Jeff. Now there are hundreds of aircraft sitting out there, but it's a return on investment thing, right? I mean, to get it back to flying, to operate in inefficient aircraft. They probably do. Some of these leasing companies do reach into the desert and pluck them out every once in a while.
Yeah, because I'm sure there was some 747-8s in the Continental, I think. Some of those brand new 74s I'm sure there was some of those sitting in the desert as well, which technically I know they're 4-engine aircraft, but they did have the newer engines on, which I think are slightly more economical to run than the original kind of Rolls-Royce RB211 powered 747s, the Dash 400s.
Yeah, surely, but I bet you those engines have probably been stripped off and sent over to operators. That's the most valuable part of an aircraft. For usually the first thing that gets pulled off is the engines.
Mm. Oh, well, if you're listening, if you don't want those aircraft, feel free to send parts over here for me. I've got room in the office here. Anyway, moving on to the next story for you, Nev. And we all know that Nev loves to burn around in his Focus ST and do donuts and, slide around in the icy weather here in the UK. But this is an aircraft version of your car, Nev.
Yes, you shouldn't be doing it in an aircraft, though, should you?
No.
It's on simpleflying.com. It says that an American Airlines from Philadelphia slid off the taxiway into snow upon arrival at PWM Airport, Portland International, resulting in the passengers and crew being extricated by bus to the terminal. The aircraft, which was a Bombardier CRJ 900, was carrying 59 passengers and 4 crew members, all of whom remained unharmed in the incident. The American Airlines Flight 5280, operated by regional PSA Airlines, took off from Philadelphia International Airport at 10:47 and arriving at Portland at 12:08 on Monday afternoon. The aircraft landed successfully on the primary runway and proceeded to taxi to the terminal. As the plane made its way down the taxiway, the nose of the aircraft slid off the runway into the snow, whilst the main landing gear remained firmly on the taxiway. Portland International Jetport Director Paul Bradbury confirmed to Simple Flying that the incident caused the airport's primary runway to be temporarily closed. As it came down, it landed with reasonably good braking action and then went to turn onto taxiway Alpha. And whilst taxiing on Alpha, the nose gear slipped just off the paved surface. Since the aircraft was within the runway safety area of the jetport's primary runway, which was 1129, the runway had to remain closed until the aircraft was moved. Thankfully, all the Terminator flights were able to get in, which allowed full resumption of all operations in the morning. The American Eagle aircraft remained lodged in the snowbank whilst the passengers were bused to the terminal. The runway was closed for several hours for safety reasons until airport staff removed the plane from the taxiway. The aircraft in question was immediately taken out of service and is undergoing a full inspection by the airline's maintenance team before returning to service. Officials at the airport confirmed that the runway was back to fully operational status by 18:30 on the Monday. The incident, in conjunction with an ongoing snowstorm, continued to affect flights throughout Monday. A total of 24 flights from the airport were delayed between the runway closure and the inclement weather. Further 18 flights to and from the airport were cancelled on the Monday when approached by local media. Passengers aboard the American Eagle flight generally seemed optimistic and relieved that the incident didn't result in any injuries. Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? But yes,
we have an expert in the chat room on this one, Micah, who actually knows Paul, the airport manager there.
Yeah, he does. Yes, yeah, and it's his airport.
His local airport.
Yeah, exactly. He said total big mess this year: 16 inches of snow over 2 days, lots of rain in between, so it was slushy. It is no joke. It's just like a car. The runway could be great, but the moment you start turning off, that nose wheel has very little traction. So if it's going to go off, it's going to go off. All you can do is just shut down the engine.
Very low speed as well, I would imagine. Even at just a few knots, it's very easy just to go off the paved surface, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Matt, you've got the next story, and this, the biggest little air show.
Yeah, it's an unusual one, isn't it? It's Yeah, it's from generalaviationnews.com, and the headline is the biggest little air show, as Carlos said. The 9th annual biggest little air show, put on by the Hiller Aviation Museum at San Carlos Airport. Is this why you chose this one? In California, boasted not only perfect weather, but a sold-out show. Sponsored by Pixie, a San Jose software firm, the June 2022 event for radio-controlled aircraft was organised to take full advantage of the 90 minutes the airport was closed to regular traffic. Local clubs were out in full force to exhibit a wide range of flying models, from simple foam models to sophisticated powered by ducted fan engines and kerosene gas turbines. That one's very, very exciting. I love the sound of that. There were some creative flying constructions that took to the air, such as an eagle, a flying man, and a representation of the starship USS Enterprise. There we go.
Yes.
How on earth did they make that fly? The flying started with electric-powered prop aircraft, followed by an electric ducted fan jets. A demonstration of 3D aerobatics was next, using models with high thrust to weight ratios, allowing the planes to hover and perform other manoeuvres not seen with real aircraft. Rotary wings demonstrations were conducted with a racing drone, and a model helicopter. Powered sailplanes put on a graceful slow-speed show before a subscale USAF Thunderbirds F-16 raised the energy back up with a high-speed demo, also with smoke. I'm sorry, I've just got to go back to that. I'm showing the pictures while I'm doing that. I mean, it is the USS Enterprise in the loosest possible term.
Oh my word!
But nevertheless, it is it is what it is. Wow. Last was a combat demonstration which models tried to cut other aircraft's streamers with their props. We saw didn't we see something like this at Seething, but with real planes?
Yeah, they had the display at Seething that had it was like a little and large. There was a full size lowing aerobatic aircraft with an absolute replica mini radio controlled one flying with it. Yeah, very good display.
Oh, yes, I've forgotten John was there for that one, wasn't he? Yes. Once the subscale flying was completed... how does one do 2D aerobatics? Good point, well made. Thanks, Bill. Once the subscale flying was completed, the runway was reopened for a full-scale aerobatic performance as the show's finale. Chuck Coleman had that honour for this event, performing in his extra 300L. Aside from his years of airshow performances, Chuck is also an accomplished test pilot, and most recently was the aerobatic fly instructor for the actors in the blockbuster film Top Gun Maverick. Ooh, there we go. I love it. I'm amazed we don't do more of this, because some of these model aircraft are a thing to behold anyway, honestly. Aren't they? I mean, they are beyond outstanding.
I remember being up at Beccles, Matt, which is obviously our not too far away from us, our local airfield here at Beccles. I remember being up there one Saturday, and there was a couple of guys up there. There's a club up there that fly scale replica aircraft up there, and watching those guys fly them, I would never want to try it, because I'd end up putting it into a field and it would be a bunch of pieces. But the skill that must be involved with flying aircraft, as in like replica aircraft, radio controlled aircraft like that, is I'm in awe of them.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever? Has anybody? I've never done it.
Nope. I wouldn't want to try.
John is shaking his head no. This is something that I also remember. I remember as a kid growing up in Canóvanas, Puerto Rico. I remember on the drive from my house to my grandmother's house in Canóvanas, there was a scale aircraft airfield on the way there, and I remember stopping with my dad and watching these guys fly. And this was back in the 80s. I would love to have somebody on the show. It's a topic that we haven't delved into. I'd love to have one of our listeners or anybody that's a professional come on to the show and talk to us about scale aeronautics. I know that here in the U.S. there's what is it, the Academy of Model Aeronautics, the AMA. That's the biggest scale model organization. But yeah, if anybody over there or over here is listening to the show, please send us an email because I'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, even the ones that got jet engines just amaze me how they can get that, technology into something that small.
Pound shop enterprise, apparently.
Yeah, that's the only problem with those replica models that you fly like that. You see these guys flying on here like that. You only got to put it in the ground once, and it's probably. I doubt whether they're £3.50 down at Poundland.
No, I don't suppose they are.
Or whatever. They're expensive things to crash.
Richard Adams is saying
at Poundland.
They might be a
they might be a pound at Armando. Yeah, good point. Yeah,
is that? For you, I know Matt's got obviously a drone or a UAV.
Yeah.
Is that something you've never sort of wondered about having Nev sort of like a DJI Phantom or something like that for sort of photography or for?
I love mine. I was flying last week.
It isn't. For some reason it just doesn't do it for me, I'm afraid. And
oh, really?
Knowing some of the neighbours that we've got round our way, the complaints left, right, and centre. Even if I was operating it perfectly legally and with all the competence that one needs.
I guess that's the thing that we're quite.
So I'm just not going to go there because it's difficult enough parking your car outside.
without World War III breaking out. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we're very lucky where we are, of course, Carlos, because we've got plenty of places fields and places where you can sort of fly them and have fun without having to sort of. Where I was actually on. In Yarmouth in the dunes and went for a walk, and my drone's got like a GPS tracker type sort of thing on it, so you could actually go for a walk and it would literally just follow you. So it's like picking up a signal on your phone, and then just once you sort of lined up the shot, you could then just keep walking and do that. I deleted all the videos in the end. It's a shame I did.
Airplanes.
No,
I'll stick to paper airplanes.
No,
it's just cheaper. It's a cheaper option. If I crash it, it costs nothing.
Well, I mean, you have to work really hard. I mean, I must admit, I have crashed it a couple of times. Fortunately, there are some propellers the extra propellers that came in my kit. It was a very good drone, to be fair. But I have crashed it a couple. If you fly it when it's windy, then it serves you right. But yeah, if you sort of fly, and I did do that once where I was flying in an area where it was fairly where it was quite sheltered until I got above the building, and it literally sort of hovered very nicely, flew around, did some, because we were trying to film my friend's roof because they thought they got a leak, and we were trying to see if it was a tile that was loose or something like that, and it was absolutely fine. Got it as soon as it got above the rooftop, that was it. Woof, gone. And
Captain Ridiculous Wits definitely do that. Yeah, if you ask your friend who flies them. Yeah.
Okay. You have to put a little more context in that for those who are listening online.
Captain Ridiculous Wits is saying in the chat room he knows someone who flies radio controlled air.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, definitely.
He's going to see if he's interested. We might be able. He's also an American Airlines pilot as well.
Ooh, so hello, two birds with one show.
I know.
Yeah, we're going to have to delete that. When we have him on the show, we're going to have to delete that. Who he works for.
he flies for
a major
shiny aluminum airlines.
What do we call them? Acme Red, White, and Blue, right?
I'm gonna go and have a lie down in a darkened room, I think.
Aluminum Airlines. There we go.
Oh dear.
Anyway, Armando, let's chill, let's cool things down here a bit with this next story, Armando.
I love it. Great segue. From the catacombs of aviation, the Alton Bay ice runway is not going to open in 2023. I feel like this is another Micah story. We should have just had Micah on the show today. So the Alton Bay.
What lake is this? What lake is
Lake Winnipesaukee.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah, you guys can't. It's famous. Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire. It's not going to open at all in 2023. Jason Levitt, the manager of the ice landing field at the Alton Bay seaplane base, says that it's all about the weather. He said that ice conditions and forecasted weather unfortunately will prevent the ice runway from opening this year. He reported on the airport's Facebook page, which is goes by the same name, Alton Bay Seaplane Base and Ice Runway. Local news reported that as of the third week of January, the lake was not even close to being frozen, and they needed at least 12 inches of ice before the ice runway can open. Not opening is not unusual, according to officials, noting that the runway also did not open in 2011, 2016, and 2020, but hopes do remain high for next year. And on the website, the Facebook page, and a video, which is a really nice video, they thanked everybody for the support and look forward to seeing everyone in 2024. I thought this was pretty cool. Have you guys ever heard of this, the Alton Bay Ice Runway?
No.
Ice runways, yes, but not the Lake Winnie's.
Lovely. Beautiful pronunciation.
Micah just fell back in his chair right now with you trying to pronounce that. Lake Winnipesaukee.
Yeah, that's what I said. It was just the Skyping of the Zoom call that
Yeah, we've had enough excitement on the Skyping of Zoom things, Carlos. To be fair, let's not start tempting fate. So it's Lake Winnipesaukee, yeah.
Oh, wow! Hey.
Okay.
Listen, go to YouTube, not during the show, after the show. Check out some of the videos of people going into this runway. It's pretty cool. It's kind of one of these bucket list items on the East Coast that you check off. You can take your Piper Archer, or you can take your Cessna, and even some bigger airplanes go in there. But you can take it and land on an ice runway, and they have a whole setup there that you taxi on ice. And I think there's plenty of places to.
Don't want to take American Airlines CRJ 900.
No, probably not. No,
Too
indeed. Too soon. Yeah, or simple flying, or just give you they'll put the picture of a 737-800 or something in instead.
Oh, Matt, naughty boy.
I do love this picture though, because it is literally, you look at it and you can see like little taxiways and all that kind of thing. Everything there screams it's an airfield, and then you remind yourself
it's a frozen lake.
Yeah, exactly. In wake, just incredible.
Yeah, boil the kettle and knock the kettle of water over. Game over.
And there goes a Cessna 172 right into the drink.
Special. Yeah. Okay.
Nah, it's pretty cool. Go watch some videos. There's some really cool approaches going in there.
Indeed.
Carlos,
Ideal for you, Matt, when you want your gin. Bit of ice.
Right. I mean, it seems like a long way to go for ice. That's the only thing I would say, certainly from here. But anyway.
So, next story. Good news. If you are on the hunt for a job and you want to be a flight attendant on a particular kind of jet, because this one is from paddleyourown.canoe.com. And Netflix is on the hunt for flight attendants to work on a fleet of private jets owned by the streaming giant. Blimey, I must pay for their wages, Evan, the amount of Netflix subscriptions I have. Netflix is on the hunt for its very own flight attendant.
Hang on. You have more than one Netflix subscription?
No, I have one subscription utilised by many family members.
True, indeed. Yes, agreed.
Anyway, Netflix is on the hunt for its very own flight attendants to work on a fleet of Gulfstream mid-sized private jets capable of carrying up to 19 passengers. The streaming giant has posted a job ad for flight attendants in its in-house aviation department, which is based out of San Jose Airport in Northern California. Netflix hasn't offered a specific compensation range for the role, but the lists of overall market range for the similar positions being between $60,000 and $385,000. Not bad. Imagine paying tax on that on your wages. The final compensation amount will be determined by a wide range of compensation factors, including skills, experience, the company says. Netflix operates a fleet of private jets for its high-flying senior executives, including the Gulfstream G550, which can cost as much as $41 million for the latest model. The aircraft has a maximum range of around 12,500 kilometers, and the cabin interior can be specced out with comfortable recliner seats or even full-size beds. The Stranger Things maker says the right candidate will be professionally trained in the cabin and passenger safety, as well as aircraft emergency evacuation. Unusually, Netflix doesn't stipulate whether the right candidate should already have experience as a flight attendant or either a commercial airline in private aviation. The Netflix recruiters are, however, looking for someone with discretion and outstanding customer service skills, as well as someone who is organised enough to purchase all the required food and beverage stock needed for each trip based on the requirements of the discerning passengers. Blimey, that'd be a rum old trip to Lidl's or Aldi. Netflix flight attendants are trained to FAA standards and must be comfortable working a varied work schedule with frequent trips across the US as well as internationally. Its annual Netflix, or its annual accounts, Netflix says it permits key executives as well as their family members to use its fleet of corporate aircraft for personal use, a benefit of working for Netflix. Well, I'm in the wrong bleeding job here. In 2021, co-chief executive officer Reed Hastings was responsible for more than $442,000 worth of private jet use. Meanwhile, Chief Operating Officer Greg Peters was responsible for around $308,000 worth of private jet usage. Netflix says the aviation team helps Netflix reach the world more efficiently and effectively so the company can continue to create joy around the world. I mean, joy around the world? Let's be honest, guys. If you're earning that amount of money, yeah, it's a job, isn't it? Armando, why aren't you? I mean, I'm surprised, to be fair, that Netflix haven't contacted you, as in Armando. I mean,
well, I'm not a qualified flight attendant.
To fly the plane.
You know what? There was actually a job advertised for a Netflix pilot position about 3 months ago. I'm not going to move to California, though.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
This isn't just Netflix. I mean, most of the big Fortune 500 companies and big companies here in the U.S. will have, not just here in the U.S., all around the world, will have a fleet of private jets. You know, Procter & Gamble is one that comes to mind. They have a whole fleet of jets. Think of how many Procter & Gamble products they are. So the executives constantly have to visit their distribution facilities, their manufacturing suppliers, all these things. And it's, when you're talking about the time away from their desk that it would require otherwise, you know, if you have a team of 4 individuals. So like here in Charlotte, North Carolina, big banking industry. So Wells Fargo has aircraft, Bank of America have aircraft, Lowe's Home Improvement have aircraft base here, 5 Falcons. When you talk about the time that they're saving, visiting, you know, using a private fleet. So for example, somebody for Lowe's or Home Depot, you can leave at 8 a.m., go hit 3 stores in one area in the morning, have lunch on the aircraft, hit 3 more stores in the afternoon, and then you're home by dinner time. That's the kind of situation where now it makes sense to have a fleet of aircraft, because what is the time worth for these corporate suite individuals, especially when you get 4 or 5 of them traveling together? To do those trips would be a 4-day trip if you did it commercially. But with a something like a Gulfstream, like Netflix, you can hit studios, you can hit third-party animation providers, services, things like that. You can hit all that in a morning and not waste your corporate suites time.
I'm surprised, Nev, that the amount of flying that you do in and around Europe, I'm surprised the company you work for hasn't got a private jet that's just for you.
Well, we do have 995 employees across the world in the company, but I don't think the management have got not in the mood for private flying. I don't think, especially in the US when there's so many good, commercial operators anyway, and it doesn't really. Our firm doesn't really have that kind of outlook on life, I don't think.
Oh,
but
well.
I think it's a little bit different over there, because commercial air travel, Nev, I mean, for your job, you can get to what, 80% of the places that you need to go to for work by going into either an international or a regional airport.
Yes, I can.
Yeah. See, here the geography here in the US, you may have a manufacturer. Let's say you're Lowe's. You may have a distributor or manufacturer that's in Hickory, North Carolina, or they're in Amarillo, Texas, where the only thing you have is a municipal airport, and it would take you a full day just to travel there. But it definitely does depend on the company's needs.
I'll have a word with Stuart next week, Matt, and see what I can do.
Right.
See if I can get myself a private jet for work.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure he'll be.
I'll give it a go.
Yeah, I mean, right, that was of a tax rise of some description. Yeah.
I mean, we've got an active airfield right next to where I work.
I don't think that's the most expensive part about it, I'll be honest.
Oh, well. The thought was there. Anyway, moving on to the next story. Nev, we cover a story near enough every week, I think, about these stylish, posh new cabins that are being. So we thought we'd give you another story this week regarding these.
Yes, it's on aerotime.aero, and these are the top 5 airline cabin refits to look forward to in 2023. So those of you who enjoy the state of the art when it comes to passenger experience will have quite a few options to try out in the course of the coming months. Whilst 2022 brought us Finnair's innovative and much lauded non-recline Air Lounge business class seat, Virgin Atlantic's A330neo glamorous upper class suites, and Delta's new first class on the A321neo, 2023 certainly won't be falling behind when it comes to cabin revamps. Whilst this is not an exhaustive list here, it's just a bit of a taster of what will be coming later in the year. Now, this first one's from Emirates. We've already talked about this one on the show previously, but this is possibly the single largest, in dollar terms at least, cabin refit program to date anywhere in the world. The Dubai-based carrier is spending $2 billion in a major effort to upgrade the interiors of its entire A380 and Boeing 777 fleets. So we're talking about 120 wide-bodied aircraft here in total. The massive refurbishment exercise, which kicked off in late 2022, is expected to go on until mid-2025. It's already been seen the first refitted A380 delivered and entering service into the first days of this year on the flagship Dubai to London route. Air France, well, the first of Air France's refitted Boeing 777-300ER aircraft is making its debut, has already done so actually, last week on January the 20th, with a flight between Paris Charles de Gaulle and New York's JFK. This new cabin features a business class fitted with 48 seats that have been designed for extra privacy and comfort. The focus of the new Air France business class experience has been placed on what the airline calls the 3 Fs. Charming. Fully flat beds, full access to the aisle, and full privacy, thanks to the sliding doors that allow passengers to be out of sight from fellow travel companions. That's my kind of seat, I have to say. Each of these seats is equipped with a 17.3-inch 4K anti-glare screen and a Bluetooth connection that allows passengers to use their own headphones as well. Air France have chosen a palette of cold yet somehow elegant dark blue, grey and white, punctuated by some touches of the airline's corporate red, for a cabin whose air of sobriety and elegance is enhanced by the use of materials such as wool, brushed aluminium and full-grain French leather in the finishings. The French carrier is also expected to roll out its new refreshed first-class product called La Première towards the end of this year. On Iberia, the Spanish flag carrier is calling this the A350 Next because the cabin benefits from the latest A350 improvement packages delivered by Airbus. In addition to several aerodynamic improvements, the European aircraft manufacturer has managed to make the walls thinner and the passenger cabin 1 inch wider than the previous iterations of the A350. Iberia has also removed the overhead bins in the central part of the business class cabin, adding to the sense of space. This A350 Next features a 3-class cabin fitted with 31 Recaro CL6720 lie-flat business class seats, 28 premium economy and 203 economy class seats, all of them across all classes, fitted with Panasonic 4K screens. This hardware upgrade has been accompanied by a comprehensive firm-wide program to refresh the whole passenger experience and onboard service, and has also involved an update of crew uniforms and that of the gastronomical offering on board. Lufthansa, we've also talked about this on a previous show. If all goes according to plan, 2023 may see the rollout of the much anticipated Allegri, is it Allegri or Allegris, premium class cabin across Lufthansa's long-haul fleet. This cabin refresh program is part of a comprehensive product and the service upgrade program through which Lufthansa is planning to invest $2.5 billion all the way through to 2025. Those fortunate enough to fly on the first class suites will enjoy ceiling high privacy walls and the comfort of a metre wide bed and their own wardrobe. The corresponding business class, which is already in service in some of the airline's aircraft, will be fitted to all remaining long-haul aircraft types in the German airline's inventory. It features higher walls and sliding doors for privacy, direct aisle access and seats that can be converted into a 2-metre long bed. Economy class passengers will also see improvements, namely the extension of a sleeper's row product to all new long-haul aircraft, giving people the ability to fold up leg rests and use an additional mattress for rest and sleeping. Lufthansa Group subsidiary Swiss will also refit its Boeing 777 fleet with its version of this cabin starting in 2025. And finally in this section, in 2022, KLM unveiled its new premium economy class and is said to be preparing at some point this year for the refitting of its Boeing 777 fleet with a new business class product. Sources at the Dutch airline confirmed they are working on a business class revamp but declined to provide any additional details at the time that they were contacted for this article. Some media reports point to the current 222 business class configuration, which is already showing signs of age, likely to be replaced by a 1-to-1 setup. The update would provide every business class traveller direct aisle access, as well as increased privacy with individual sliding doors. If confirmed, this would align KLM's Boeing 777 business class experience, not just with that being currently offered by some of its direct competitors, but also with that available on board its own Dreamliner fleet. So there's some serious amounts of money being spent there. My goodness me. Yeah, fascinating. That A350, by the way, on when I flew, now what was it? Oh, it was on Finnair. That's right. They don't have any overhead bins in the centre of the cabin either, and it makes it so much more spacious, unbelievably so. But an interesting concept, definitely.
Do you think they have a lot of these? They're getting very similar now with the designs of the various sort of business class kind of setups now. A lot of them are now starting to look very similar between the different airlines, or is that just me?
The thing is, there's only a certain amount you can do, isn't there, in an aircraft with the weight penalties that go with this stuff as well. You know, and I think you might say, although there are differences clearly between all of the different fleets and different manufacturers and different airlines, at the end of the day, this new sort of suite thing has come in, and there's, you know, every few years there's something new happening, but it comes at, boy, what a cost, you know.
John Jester was actually
$5 billion, you know.
John Jester was saying that basically it was he felt like it was a rather unusual decision, if you like. Taking out the bins makes no sense. To him, overhead space is at a premium already, and I think that's a valid point, isn't it? I mean, I understand. I mean, the one, you know, I've forgotten which one it was now, where they'd taken out the ones in the middle there, so all it was you know, to give you that idea of space. But you know, people will still have stuff they want to sort of get shot of.
Yes, there is that. No, I thought it, well, speaking entirely selfishly, because I only carried one small bag onto the plane.
Yeah, true.
It made it very, very spacious and roomy. But I do get John's point about it. It might restrict a little bit of you know, baggage space. So
Indeed.
Unfortunately, we need to win the lottery to travel like this all the time.
Yeah, true.
So that was the last in our news stories for this week, for commercial news stories. But we have had some listener feedback, haven't we, guys, from Jake, who's emailed the show this week. And we've got an email here. I'm going to try and read it out without coughing halfway through. Jake has written us an email, and he says, just contacting you all as I thought you might find it interesting. He's been pretty vocal, and he that I do not think the supersonic stuff will ever take off. Obviously, we were talking about the supersonic aircraft and various stories throughout the last few months on the show. He says, I'm currently studying towards my ATPL theory exams, and with the joys of Brexit changing basically everything in regards to syllabus, I thought you might be interested to know that when Concorde was operating, there was course content in principles of flight about supersonic flight, but with the demise of Concorde, this was obviously still included, but massively reduced. Well, now with the conversation surrounding boom and the future of aviation being potentially supersonic, the amount of supersonic content has dramatically increased. He says, I don't know about you, but I find it fascinating that even with what feels like an almost non-starter of an idea, the authorities still see it as important for us to focus our attention towards supersonic again. He follows on, in regards to the conversation surrounding boom and my personal beliefs, beliefs it just doesn't work, as there isn't even an appropriate power plant. He says, my lecturer is an aeronautical engineer and designer, and he was telling me that he had a friend working at Rolls-Royce on the supersonic contract that he told me that Rolls-Royce didn't pull out due to lack of feasibility, but more their contract was only for the initial design stage, and that it had come to an end at the end of their tenure. On a slightly different note, he says, I recently heard you talking about a flight sim special episode on the show. I just wanted to give my input. When I was initially obtaining my PPL, I was strongly advised not to flight sim, as I would pick up bad habits. And it just is a shame, as when you fly light aircraft, you need to feel it. Which is true. The inverse to this is that I'm undertaking my ATPL. It has been suggested that I use my flight sim not for flying, but for familiarization with the relevant aircraft systems as the aircraft get more complex. He says, I find this to be really interesting and is only relevant to study level aircraft, but the principle is still the same, and that there is great value to be had from simply knowing where to find specific buttons and understanding how the different functions work. It has been especially evident when discussing radio navigation and how planes actually fly, as the notion of flying a holding pattern at VOR can be visually seen on the sim, something that is very useful for myself, who is a kinesthetic learner. Finally, on a lighter note, he's transferring into aviation from a background in the arts, which has sparked a conversation among his peers and lecturers about the transferable skills from different careers. As I'm sure you can appreciate, it as not the most conventional of career transitions. However, it really has become evident that the need to be adaptable, get along with people, and be both autonomous and a team player have been massively transferable skills into the aviation sector, especially when there's a conversation about job security, when I've come from an industry with zero job security. So this is nothing new to me, and I've already learned to be resilient and have to relocate for work. This raises my question for the show. From your current jobs, those that aren't pilots, what do you think the most transferable skill from your job would be to aviation? Many thanks for the show, he says, as always, and I'm always listening, but I'm just a lurker who listens to the podcast every week, but isn't available for the chat room on a Friday. And that's from Jake Castle. Thanks for that, Jake.
Oh, I'm loving the question, by the way. So let's open that out to the rest of the team. I mean, Armando, I feel like you're almost like exempt from this for no other reason than you are actually in aviation. Or I mean, do you have another skill that you have outside of like the aviation side of things that you use on a regular basis in aviation?
Well, despite the fact that I wasn't a military aviator, there was a lot of military skills regarding leadership, management, risk management, conflict management, communications, change management, things like that are directly transferable into the cockpit. But regarding that question, I am actually more interested in your guys' answers.
Yeah, I suppose. For me, I suppose because it's. I feel like I would give. I feel like I would give a really good and very clear PA announcement. I feel like I'd be quite good at that. You know, sort of like, yeah, I feel I'd be very good at that. I don't know if I could do. I guess you could argue my many years as running pubs and things like that. Perhaps I might be quite good with the hospitality side of things in terms of cabin crew, perhaps. But
yes, service is it's a huge part of our industry, especially in business aviation. But as we know, even in commercial aviation. How about you, Nev?
Well, I'd like to think it would be listening and having a lot of patience and never being in a rush. That's me all over, really. Some of my colleagues that I have worked with, not in my current firm, I have to say, but in other times, who are always late for everything, and they just, compromise whatever they're doing because they're in a rush, or they don't listen properly because they're too busy on transmit very often. So for me, I would say that I would like to think that because I'm a good listener and I do have patience, I would be able to take in quite a lot of information and digest it properly before making a decision about something. Even if that means I was holding up the aircraft behind slightly, but at least I was on the correct taxiway. Or I read back the clearance properly, something like that.
See, so I'm going to disagree with you slightly there, Nev. I'm going to say that with you in charge, certainly perhaps in terms of ground control and things, there wouldn't be a single late aircraft from your airport ever.
Well, that is possible. Yes, I
a stickler for timing is our Nev.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is true.
Well, that's actually a huge part. One of the parts of aviation we never talk about is the operations part of it. The system operations center, the air traffic controllers, the traffic management unit. Those things are incredibly important. And you're kind of joking around about it, but this is an aviation in general question, maybe not specific to the flight deck. And I think Nev would be an outstanding operations manager, right?
Yeah.
From what we know.
And the cable management would be absolutely outstanding, wouldn't it? Before we go to Carlos, can ask his question. By the way, people in the chat room, we want to hear your transferable skills, please. So do get them in the old chat room, and we'll include them in just a moment.
I'm allowed to have one other one.
Oh, all right, yeah, go on.
I would equip every single aircraft that I've ever flown on with a proper PA system that has decent.
Yeah. Just so that my dulcet tones, dulcet tones could be heard clearly. Of course, Nev, that's what it is.
They are appalling.
Yeah,
absolutely appalling.
Why is that the one thing that always lets down commercial airliners?
Is it the
speakers?
You would think it was a safety critical item, wouldn't you? The PA from the flight deck, the cabin crew. This stuff's important, but honestly, generally speaking, it's just abysmal, I think.
But the PAs themselves are not normally too bad. I mean, when you listen to, I'll use I forgot who's the one that uses the newsreader from the Big Breakfast. I've forgotten the airline. I want to say EasyJet, I think. Where they use that, and like in the speakers in the what is it, the A320, isn't it, or the A321, depending on which one you're on, and their voice is lovely and clear. You can hear every word, like the safety announcement and stuff. Everything's A1. Is it something as simple as the microphone they're using in the cockpit is rubbish?
Well, it's microphone technique for a start.
Okay.
Don't forget you've got a handset telephone star thing, and I think the frequency response of the speakers and amplifiers is a little bit not quite where it should be, but it should be an easy win. But again, it's all about weight saving, so maybe some of the manufacturers of these things have taken some of the more important components out to make it
Our ATC representative Graham Haley is suggesting that it's not just like the PAs where microphone technique is an issue, shall we? It says it's buffering, bear with you, and it should be coming back now.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay, let's get some of the responses in the chat room. Then we'll start with Mazouz. He's suggesting that he can drink coffee. Drinking coffee. I'm not sure that counts. What else have we got? Oh, hello, APG show. I feel like this is going to be slightly biased. Coffee drinking is a very important skill, apparently, Mazus is saying. Oh, so there we go.
Oh, yeah.
Dirk S is running numbers. Ooh, as in...
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, and I can breathe almost accident-free. Very good, right.
And there really are some good ones in the chat room.
Yeah.
Staring at screens all day, but reporting for a 3:30 a.m. shift, a 4 a.m. shift.
Yep.
From Stuart. That's I mean,
that's a very important skill. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Grinner has some really good feedback saying that communication is very important. Workload management. That's something very, very important as something we teach in crew resource management and CRM. I think we have an entire block on communications, an entire block on workload performance.
Captain Ridiculous Wits is suggesting that he can repair, modify, upgrade any kind of engine mechanically. I am a 12 volt, 24 volt master and could absolutely modernise any old airline cabin. Only problem is I would get in trouble for plane spotting. I love that. I think we'd all get guilty of that.
Carlos, I don't think we got your answer. What do you think is your most transferable skill?
I think that was an easy one. Matt will know what I mean by this, but I think when I was initially learning to fly many years ago, I was training with two other guys who were a lot younger than me. I will just point that out. But they struggle with the RTC side of things and the radio communication side of things. And I strongly believe that I think because of what the DJing and the stuff that I do at the weekends, I think that really helped me be able to just talk
clearly, speak
clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly speak, know what I was going to say it with no hesitation straight away. Definitely, 100%.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
Well, I know that Nev has some responses that he sent back to Jake. I know for me there was 2 points that I picked out of his feedback, and one of them was the career changer, the diversity that people bring to aviation is one of the most interesting parts, and it's one of the most fun parts of aviation. And one of the things that I wrote back to Jake is whether it's in the airlines and corporate, sometimes you're stuck in the same pressurized tube with the same person for anywhere from a couple hours to a couple days to even a couple weeks on the corporate side of the house. You may be flying with the same individual. And the most interesting individuals that I've flown with are those that have either reinvented themselves every couple years or that are career changers. They have incredibly diverse backgrounds. And to be honest, sometimes it's nice to be up there and not talk about airplanes. You want to get to know the other person. And so for example, this current job that I'm in, flying the Hawker, the guy that I fly with worked for a large grocery store chain here in the US. He worked for Publix for over 20 years. He rose through the ranks from basically a stock boy all the way up to a store manager. And I love talking to him about his experience and his career. And then we generally kind of link it into how does that apply to aviation. But when I was flying at the airline, that really made the time go by when you had another interesting person in the other seat. And you actually had something to talk about on your layovers, because when you land, you've done the whole day. Now you're going to go out to dinner. I love airplanes, but I don't want to talk about airplanes 24/7. And it's so much nicer to have an educated conversation or a fun conversation, getting to know somebody at dinner. And career changers really make the most interesting individuals. Also, the companies want to know that when you interview, say that PIP feedback real quick, but when you interview at a company, that's what they want. When you interview at at an airline, they're looking for the individual. They're looking for the background that they bring. They're looking for those transferable skills that you bring to the company, to the flight deck. And they don't want just a pilot. They want somebody that's going to represent the company. And if you're coming from another career, you've proven yourself in another career, and you have something to show for it, it makes your interview more interesting, and it makes you more likely to be hired than someone who just came up through the ranks, and is a 23-year-old with no life experience. Now, that is a path, right? Like, because they're in it, they're fighting, they're in the heat of battle right from day one. But really, the best interviews, the interviews that I've done, are the ones that are you bring a person to the interview, not just these canned flying answers. And my second point was regarding the simulator thing. I kind of agree with his email that perhaps not in primary flight training. I think it can be negative reinforcement if you haven't built those habits yet to go practice on a home flight simulator. But once you get into instrument flying, it can be invaluable. I would recommend doing it under supervision with an instructor first, or somebody that's a certified in whatever rating that it is that you're going for. But flying instrument approaches can be invaluable. Doing holds, like he was saying, there's even some add-ons to both Microsoft Flight Simulator and Pilot Edge. If you're struggling with the communication, which is the three of you said communications, right? It is very important, but that is one of the hardest things in aviation when you transition to flying. And there are some programs like Pilot Edge. We had them on the show right before Oshkosh last year. You can get online and fly these approaches, get your IFR clearances, get your IFR routing, do your instrument approaches, and really get comfortable at $29.99 a month, as opposed to $200 an hour trying to do it in the air. And even myself, so when I'm flying into challenging airports, when you're talking about Teterboro, the famous Teterboro Rudy 6 departure, when you're talking about some of these Class B airports that have complex standard terminal arrival routes, stars and instrument departures, SIDS, there's a lot of step downs and stuff. I'll pre-fly that on X-Plane in an airplane that's representative of the one that I fly. But I like to feel prepared going into the day, and a lot of times that's what I do with my home simulator. Is I'll practice those kinds of SIDS, stars, and approaches from my end. So it can be really, really valuable, positive training if you have the right habits already. And Nev, you had some thoughts to Jake's email too, right?
Yeah, and I just think he came up with some really interesting points there, and I think that the thing I was going to bring up was the supersonic travel thing, really. But I still think that is a way off, and it's just not going to be feasible for the average person. A bit like Concorde was in the old days, But no, I think that he makes some really interesting points, and no, very much appreciate your feedback, Jake. Thanks ever so much indeed for writing all that down and sending it in to us.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. Very much appreciate that as well. And don't forget, if you want to send in some feedback to us here on the show, there'll be details on how you can do that at the end of the show with the email address, because we would love to hear from you. Matt's just popped up on the screen there, just in case you didn't already know. You should already know all of it by now, but we'll mention that at the end of the show.
Yeah, those listening on YouTube, it is and the audio version, it's podcast at planetalkinguk.com. That's podcast at planetalkinguk.com.
Exactly. So on the show, we get some rather interesting requests from various companies, institutions, and pilots and people within the aviation industry. But every now and again, we get an email into the show from something completely different. And we got an email a few months back. And Nev, who was that email from?
It was from the government. I thought, oh no. What have we done now? But,
my immediate reaction was, "What has Carlos done now?" That was more like
spam email. But we needn't have worried. We were approached by the Transport Select Committee to do an interview with them, and rather than me telling you all about it, Why don't we just play it out? I'll go and put my tie on, and then you can have a listen to it. Well, I've been looking forward to this next segment of the show for a couple of weeks now, but transport's always a major topic for discussion amongst our listeners, whether it's in the field of aviation, which is our main interest, of course, or sustainable fuels for cars, cycle lane construction, new railway lines, you name it, almost any aspect, really. Well, today I'm joined by Iain Stewart, who's the Member of Parliament for Milton Keynes South and also the chair of the Cross-Party Transport Select Committee in the UK Parliament. Iain, warm welcome to the Plain Talking UK podcast, and thanks very much for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to join you.
Fantastic. Well, I'm really interested to hear about your new initiative that your committee has announced called Our Future Transport. So could you tell our listeners a little bit about it?
Certainly. First of all, select committees have an important role to do in scrutinising the work of government, of operators, and all sorts of participants in different sectors. And that's absolutely not wanting to shy away from that. But I think select committees also have an important role to contribute to the general debate on future policy. And to look forward to and make constructive comments and suggestions. And what I'm keen to do with this inquiry, Our Future Transport, is to try and look ahead at some of the what you might call disruptors that are coming in terms of transport. That might be new technology. It might be change in passenger demand or freight demand that we need to start preparing for. So what we've done is we've invited initially anyone who's got a suggestion for an inquiry to submit a short written application. And from that, we'll draw up a short list of pitches to come in front of us in a sort of Dragon's Den style session. I'll leave your viewers and listeners to judge which dragon I may or may not be. And from that, we'll choose a small number to do a full inquiry into. So I don't know what's going to come, and that's the whole point of it, that we really sort of horizon scan and look at what might be appropriate for us to look at.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, are you looking for specific for future ideas, or will you also take evidence regarding current issues and challenges?
This specific inquiry is looking ahead because we've got a number of inquiries underway on a whole range of matters. So, current issues are, by and large being covered, although we always keep an eye out on what else we might do. But it's specifically looking at, as I say, these disruptors. If I can give an example, if we'd run this inquiry 15 years ago, it would be someone saying, by the way, self-driving vehicles are going to become a major thing in the future. You need to start thinking about it. It's that kind of, say, disruptor to what, might be regarded as conventional transport planning.
Interesting. Well, can any members of the public offer ideas regarding these future transport initiatives rather than subject matter experts and specialists?
Yes, indeed. It's there's an application form on the Transport Committee website. The deadline is the 6th of February, so it's a relatively short window to make the initial declaration of interest. But at this stage, we're not looking for war and peace or a finalised proposal. It's a short, I think, up to 500 words, broad outline of what you would like to put forward. And as I say, from those, I have no idea whether we'll get 6 or 6,000 applications. We'll draw up a short list to come in front of the committee over the next couple of months. As I say, to do this Dragon's Den style pitch. And then from that, we'll choose a small number to do formal inquiries into.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, in terms of, gathering ideas from the public, our viewers and listeners are never short of ideas and suggestions, I'm sure. But how is actually that going to work? Do they have to go to the website on the Transport Committee's website in order to do that?
Yes, the form's on there with further information about how to apply. I think the committee have also, the staff have tweeted about it, so it's all out there in the public domain, and we're proactively contacting different publications and organisations who potentially have an interest in this field.
Sure. Just one question: do you have to be a UK citizen in order to participate?
Now, that's a good question. I don't think exclusively. So if there's an international body that wants to submit an idea, it has to relate to the United Kingdom, because the work of the Transport Committee is to look at the United Kingdom's transport policy and agenda. So as long as there's that connection, we're happy to look at all sorts of ideas.
Yeah, we've got quite an international reach for our podcast, that's for sure. And a lot of those people do travel in the UK quite regularly, so they may well have an opinion or some suggestions as well.
It might be an idea that, in aviation, it might be some, airspace modernisation technology that's coming, that obviously would have an impact here and abroad.
Yeah. Is this the first time this kind of initiative has really happened? I really can't remember anything quite like this before, where you've asked for some specifics, from the public.
It's the first time the Transport Committee's done it. I can't claim originality or ownership of the idea. I quite shamelessly pinched it from the Science and Technology Committee, which has run over the last couple of years on my science inquiry. So the concept's not original, but it's the first time in the transport sphere.
That's fantastic. So just remind our listeners again, the deadline for the submission of ideas?
It's the 6th of February, so a couple of weeks' time to get those initial suggestions in. And then it really depends how many we get, how long it will take us to process those, and then invite the shortlist to come forward and meet the committee in person.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating. Well, Iain, thank you very much indeed for your time today. It sounds like a fantastic initiative, and may I wish you all the very best with it.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to talk to you.
Wow, Nev.
Well, I hope that was useful.
That was definitely different to what we've done on the show before. But I tell you what, there's some interesting points made there, and I suppose if you have got an opinion on how you think these things should be done, this is the opportunity to. Well,
share your thoughts.
They want to take evidence and information from members of the general public as well, and if they consider them worthy, then you can get the chance to go in. So on the screen now is the website, and we'll put that in the show notes as well. And you have until the 6th of February to send your immediate suggestions. Just 500 words is what's being asked for, and I've also put that in the chat room as well. So go over to that and do your best.
Indeed, and if you're listening to the audio version of the show, I'll do my very best to say it out loud for you. Basically, you need to go to committees.parliament.uk/work/7200/ R-OUR-future-transport R-future-transport. So it's committees.parliament.uk/work/7200/R-future-transport. And as Nev says, those details will be in the show notes attached to this very podcast.
So it's time for the next part of the show, military aviation time. So we're going to hand things over to Armando.
Well, now that we have the government transition, by the way, Dirk is asking, it's nice of them to approach us. How did they learn about us, PTUK?
Don't know, actually.
Number one aviation podcast in the UK. Why wouldn't you come on?
Yeah, obvious.
Anyways,
you've officially made Carlos's day.
Let's go from Parliament right to... Oh, I don't have a quippy segue. Let's just hit the button.
What's up, Bogies 13550, Angel 16, heading 340. Okay. Understand, Bogies.
Okay, the venerable Lockheed Martin F-16 Block 70 has its first flight at the Greenville facility. This flight occurred on January 24th, 2023 at 9:17 in the morning with test pilots Dwayne Pro, Opella, and Vanessa Siren is her call sign at the Siren Balgier at the helm of the aircraft. Total flight time was approximately 50 minutes and included some airworthiness checks such as engine, flight control, and fuel systems checks, as well as basic aircraft handling. Their F-16 Block 70 jet is the first of 16 jets to be delivered to Bahrain. 6 countries have selected the Block 70//72 aircraft, in addition to the current official backlog of 128 jets that are to be built in Greenville. Jordan, the country, last year signed a letter of offer and acceptance for 8 jets, and last week signed an additional LOA for 4 more jets. Lockheed Martin has received a contract to begin Jordan's long lead activities. Bulgaria has also signed an LOA for an additional 8 jets. Well, once these are finalized, the backlog will increase to 148 jets. So as you guys know, the F-16 is a long-running aircraft. We've seen some recent upgrades to the F-15 with the F-15EX. Now the Block 70 F-16 is going to some partner nations. All in all, there's about 3,000 F-16s operating in about 25 different countries. Approximately 19.5 million flight hours and 13 million sorties flown by F-16s. Now, as you guys can imagine, the Block 70 features some advanced avionics, some new radars, modernized cockpit, new safety features, advanced weapons, fuel tanks that are shaped a little bit differently, improved engine performance, all that kind of stuff that you would think goes into an upgraded aircraft. But I just think it's super cool with all these F-35s, F-22s, 5th gen, 6th gen fighters, all this stuff. The F-16 still remains one of the world's favorite fighter aircraft. So we will continue to see them in the skies for probably another, 20 million flight hours over the next however many years.
They are the new B-52, Armando.
Yeah. I mean, how many fighter jets do you know have been in service for that long? Not a lot. The F-15 and the F-16, I think, came out around the same time, somewhere in the 80s or so. And they, I think, are going to keep going for decades and decades. But speaking of F-16s and airplanes for decades and decades, Carlos, this is an airplane that has been around for a couple of thousand years, right?
The UFOs?
Yeah. Don't you watch any of the sci-fi shows? It's thousands of years.
I was a big fan, I'll have you know, of the X-Files with Gillian Anderson many years ago. Probably more for Gillian Anderson than but anyway, I was a big fan of the X-Files series, watched them all, loved them, and UFOs.
Wait, sorry, hold on. Don't you think your wife looks a little bit like Gillian Anderson?
Do you know what? Did you hear that, dear? She can't hear me. Oh well.
You're wearing earbuds.
Oh yeah. Anyway, this story comes from Flight Global. She'll listen later, trust me. This comes from Flight Global, and newly reported UFO display unusual flight performance capabilities. US intelligence. This is US government investigators have determined that many reported unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, commonly known as UFOs, are just normal airspace clutter. However, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in a 12th of January report also notes an unspecified number of reports capture extraordinary flight characteristics that required additional investigation, leading that effort from the Pentagon as their All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, catalogued some 247 new sightings of UAPs since March 2021. The analysis also included an additional 119 older reports of incidents not previously analysed. And of those 366 events. Intelligence officials say 53%, or 195 reported incidents, were normal aerospace material. Yeah, right, whatever. 26 appeared to be unmanned aerial air vehicles, or UAVs, while 163 were balloons or balloon-like entities, the ODNI investigation found. The remaining 6 sightings are classified as clutter, which can include birds, weather events, or airborne debris such as plastic bags. Ah, yes, the old plastic bag in the air. It's one of those things that looks like a UFO straight away. However, an unspecified number of the remaining 171 uncharacterized UAPs are apparently worthy of some remark. Some of these uncharacterized UAPs appear to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities. And many of the reports from military aviators in the US Navy and US Air Force, and a handful of videos released by the US Navy in 2020 show naval pilots tracking UAPs visually and with onboard sensors. In one video, 2 aviators described the craft as freely rotating and flying easily against the wind at high altitude. Boeing F-18 pilots who spoke to the news program 60 Minutes back in 2021 described encountering aircraft with no visible propulsion that executed a controlled descent of almost 24,400 meters in a few seconds, or 80,000 feet. One possible explanation for the anomalies is an advanced experimental aircraft being developed by the US military. Well, we know this because we saw it on Top Gun Maverick at the first part of the film. The Pentagon officials with the AARO last December said the military is setting up a mechanism to clear UAP sightings with the potential presence of such experimental aircraft. However, the alternative possibility that UAPs displaying such advanced flight characteristics are actually aerospace platforms belonging to adversaries such as China or Russia has raised alarm in the Pentagon and US Congress. Well, as we know, obviously we've seen the latest from the Skunk Works, as I said, on the start of the Top Gun Maverick film, so we know that's there, and obviously the film with what was that film from back in the 80s that had the SL-71 take off? You remember, Armando?
Oh, I was going to say Starman, but that's probably not it.
No, it wasn't that. It was I forget the name of the guy who was the main character in that now. The guy from the Western films. Clint Eastwood. That's it.
Well, listen, while you're trying to figure this out, I'm gonna commend the chat room for being on my side, because based on the chat room comments, Nev has just volunteered that when these UAPs, UFOs, whatever you want to call them, land on Earth, I am going to volunteer Nev to be the first to give us some feedback on their cabling systems inside their craft, on their seats, the comfort of the seats, the seat pitch, all those things. I'm just going to volunteer him because he's such a fan of military.
I would be happy to do that. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you to Grinner and Hobby Time. It was Firefox. You must have seen that film. Armando.
I remember Firebirds. That was the Apache movie.
Armando, you haven't seen... Can we just say that... Is this live on there? Firefox. You haven't seen the film Firefox?
I did a good web browser, but that was about it, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's all I know it from. Yeah. Okay. I'll add it to the list. Well, anyways, I think we talked about some UFOs. This got really big news last year when these Navy pilots got on 60 Minutes and started talking about their experiences. It does say something that the government, created an office to inquire about these things. I don't know. We'll review it. If it's got wings, I'll fly it. I'll try it.
It was a 1982 film, mind you. You're a young man now, Armando. You probably wouldn't remember that.
Carlos is paying attention to us, isn't he?
Sorry. It was a damn good film, I think, personally. But anyway.
All right, I'll add it to the list.
Add it to your list. Anyway, moving on to the next part of the show, because we've still got to squeeze in the Captionist competition for this week. And this week's Captionist, the picture, I think it was you, Armando, wasn't it? You kind of pushed this picture into the mix this week.
Yeah, it did come across my feed. So
the picture we'll explain in just a moment. We have had some very good comments on this picture, just so for the benefit of those watching or listening, I should say, to the show in audio world. Armando, you're probably the best person to explain this picture.
Well, it's definitely, according to the news, this would be a Airbus A320. No, just kidding. So this is a 747. It's Air Force One, one of the older Air Force Ones, and it's apparently out to sea on a barge somewhere. I imagine it was only getting taken to a museum. But if you can imagine the scene, calm scenes, clear skies, 747 sitting on top of a barge at sea. So, Carlos, why don't you take us through the trip that is the comments for this one?
Right, so we've had some great ones this week, as always. And we'll kick off with John, who says, Donald Trump takes last trip in Air Force One. President Biden waved off the flight and sang, "We're going to get you on a slow boat to China."
Okay.
Paul says, Boeing's comment to SpaceX, anything you can do, I can do better.
Lovely. Nev, why don't you take Gareth's comment?
Yes, Gareth says that this is the set of the rival show, Plain Sailing Podcast.
Oh, very good.
Some guy called Armando said hydroplane.
John says, keep the blue side down. Probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's see, Mark said, that's sorted the carbon footprint, Mr. President.
Kevin, who I know quite well, says, Joe, I said take Air Force One and vote, not boat.
Bob says low and slow. That's how you stay under the enemy radar.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's accurate.
And Chris says Boeing have finally solved the wide-bodied seaplane design.
Bill says, the captain speaking, how long until we reach VR or rotate speed?
Bernard says Air Force
Wonder Barge.
Wonder Barge.
Yes.
I say. Chris has come back with another go. He says, good job this boat was here for the emergency landing.
He done well to get it on there. Jeez. James says, I'll bet you $1 million I can get a 747 from here to Hawaii without even starting the engines. Joe's lost his mind. All right, Joe, $1 million it is. Easiest million I'll ever make. Damn it.
James says, show me you're rich without telling me you're rich.
I like that one.
David says the new presidential yacht.
Oh, classy. I mean, there's something to be said for that, to be fair, Neff. Steve is saying, and you thought Sully was the king of water landings. I didn't even get on the wings wet.
No. Dari says, this is US Navy's newest stealth aircraft carrier. It's very hard to detect due to its size.
Alan says, V1, flotate.
Bill says Air Force One, or is it Bargy One?
As in onion bargy? What sort of?
Well, yeah.
And finally, from the Facebook page, anyway, for now, James says, when your barge is underpowered, simply tell someone to hold your beer, strap a 747 to it, fire up those GE engines, and presto, instant speed barge.
I'll tell you what, that would get a rum speed up if you fired those engines up.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, all four of them, certainly.
There's some good ones in the chat room. I'm going to go with Mazuz Karim, who says, Captain Sully, eat your heart.
Yes, absolutely. Love that one. Richard Adams is saying CTOL. Not sure what to do with that one. Nick Codling is saying, just because Carlos said you could land on it on the carrier in the sim didn't mean you should actually do it.
Yeah, you can actually do that on X-Plane.
What? Okay, fair enough. Richard Adams says, POTUS of the Caribbean.
Oh, very good.
I think that's my new favourite. Dirk S is saying, cost cuttings due to high fuel prices finally reaches the POTUS.
Our main man Micah says new VC-25 delays cause presidential transport delays.
Nice, I like that one. Any more for any more?
Captain Cruz. Captain Cruz says that's an Evergreen International 747 that went on the Potomac to National Harbour.
Oh, okay. That's actually a serious answer.
Actual thing.
Oh, right.
It's
Sorry.
actual factual factual there.
I was thinking that wasn't funny, but it wasn't supposed to be. Fair enough. Yeah, all right, okay, that works. There we go. There we are. That's our caption competition then for this week. Well done, and thank you to everyone getting involved in that one.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
We'll have another one ready for you on our Facebook page next Wednesday.
Indeed.
So if you don't already follow us on Facebook, give us a little follow on there and a like as well while you're there.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go.
That is where we're going to wrap up episode 442 of the show. Nev, for the benefit of those who just may have forgotten, because obviously all the beer they've consumed while watching the show, where can they find us in the old world of social medias?
Yes, if you're into social media, it's Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Just search for Plain Talking UK. Our WhatsApp number for the studio is +44 757 2249 and you can email the show podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. If you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll get notifications of when we go live, and you can help shape the conversation of the show by joining us in the chat room. Just go to youtube.com and search for Plain Talking UK. Don't forget, also on our website, there's an Amazon link. So if you do your shopping through Amazon and click on that link, we get a small referral fee. Also on the website is the Patreon method of helping support the show, and the PayPal method as well. So that's all on plaintalkinguk.com.
Yes, and we hope to hear from some more feedback from listeners. We'd love to hear from you, what your thoughts are, and what's affecting you in the world of aviation around the world. We'd love to hear from you. So send us an email, ASAP. We'd love to hear from you. So that's about all the time we've got for we'll do a quick round robin before we go, because obviously everyone's really busy. Nev, you're not here this next week, but
all for the next like 5 weeks, I think.
I'm off on to our exhibition time, so over in Barcelona, starting Sunday. So I shan't be back for next Friday, unfortunately. And then the week after that, I'm off to Dallas and Portland, Oregon.
Trip reports.
So I may be away for a little while, but I'll do my best to try and contribute whenever I can.
Armando, what are you up to next week?
Oh man, if Nev's not going to be on the show, that means I have to be here for 4 weeks straight.
Oh yes.
Unfortunately, I got a whole lot of nothing going on. I'll be in San Antonio this week, but that's just for a family trip. I have no flying other than
what?
Suppose if I take the Cub up or something.
What? Why?
Yeah,
Just take the Cub
a break
up,
from flying this week.
Nice. Wow. Okay.
Well, I'm surprised just to go to Vegas. You've been there 15 times this week.
True. Carlos,
Anyway,
what are you up to?
Well, funnily enough, Monday, I'm going on a job Monday afternoon and evening to London Heathrow.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually going airside at London Heathrow with the truck.
Wow, okay. Good luck with that.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to the logistics that are going to be involved in that happening. So that'll be if you hear Monday that Heathrow is shut down.
Right. Good, lovely.
My fault.
That could make next week's show a bit of a challenge, couldn't it?
I know.
Sort of like
take
it off.
What are you up to next week? Are you
no, just working.
Online?
Yeah, just working.
With
that's
wine?
It. Yeah, just work.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's it then for episode 442 of the show. Thanks everyone for tuning in as always. Thanks to all our audio listeners as well. And have a great weekend, whatever you're up to. From me, Carlos, here in the home studio. From Matt in the PTUK Master Suite Studios. From Nev, have an awesome trip, Nev, and enjoy yourself. Take care. And from Armando at home across the pond. We'll see you all next Friday. Have a great weekend and goodbye. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.